Mom's Worst Day podcast is an avenue for mothers to share their stories, things that did not go quite as planned, and interesting trials that come with motherhood. The podcast aims to encourage and uplift women, ease the burden of their ever-present mom guilt, and to let them know that they are not alone. I'm your host, Nicole Chikwe, and welcome to Mom's Worst Day. You've got this, mama. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mom's Worst Day. Now, I'm shaking, I'm shook, because in the studio with us today, we have the incredible Steph Busari. Steph, I'll let you introduce yourself before we get into the gist. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, good morning. My name is Stephanie Busari, and I lead CNN's coverage for West Africa. I'm based in Lagos, Nigeria.
Yeah. Yay, thank you so much for coming. So I wanted to start off by just talking to moms about the importance of shooting your shot, because how did we get the Stephanie Busari here? I was talking to one of the producers, Ugonna. We're putting a list together of moms that we would like to talk to, and your name came up, and I was like, but from where to where, as in how? Like, no, but it was like, yeah, you know what, it doesn't matter. I mean, just try. And even if she says no, then it's no, it's fine. And I was like, okay. So I think it was like a random, 7 p.m. I was like, oh, hello, Steph. My name is Nicole, and I'm doing this thing, and I was wondering if you might be interested in coming. And you were so warm and receptive, and you're like, well, I'm having a yes day, so yes. And that's how she ended up here. So I'm here sat interviewing a hot shot, and I'm just shook. So everyone, just shoot your shots. You just never know. So Steph is here. My first question is, how did you enter the journalism space? Is it something you'd always been interested in, or is it something that just kind of happened?
Yeah. So before we start, I just want to say you shot your shot in a very warm and friendly and very approachable way.
Thank you. Oh, look at that.
Definitely one of the reasons I said yes. And the subject, being a mom, is really important to me. And it's not something I talk about a lot, kind of the journey of being a mom. Mm-hmm. So that was also part of why I said yes. So
okay, awesome.
I'm really glad to be asked to talk about that journey. So journalism, I'm one of those annoying people that always knew what I wanted to do.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
So since I was 12, I knew that I wanted to be a journalist.
Oh, amazing.
I was encouraged by my English and drama teacher, because I studied in the UK for my secondary. And she said to me, you've got a writing talent and you should consider journalism. And it never occurred to me. And from that moment, it was like a light switch went on in my mind, and I just dedicated myself to becoming a journalist from that moment on.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think at 12, I was still set on being a doctor. I mean, at the time in Nigeria, it was doctor, lawyer, engineer. So I was like, okay, well, doctor, medicine seems fine. I can do that. But one of the things I knew that I wanted more than anything, I knew I always wanted to be a mom. So when anyone would ask me, like, oh, what did you want to do? I'm like, oh, I want to be a mom. And my mom is there like, oh my God. Doctor, she wants to be a doctor. Please.
Not right now. Later, much later.
Maybe much later, but yeah, she wants to be a doctor. So I love that even from a young age, you already knew. And that's amazing that you were encouraged by your teacher to do that. I also find it interesting because you were in the UK and you're Black. And your teacher still thought, I think you should go for it. That's incredible.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting point, because I had both sides of the spectrum where, some teachers have low aspirations of you as a Black student. Mm-hmm. But I grew up in Nigeria. So
okay.
I was born in Lagos and I left when I was 12.
Okay.
So I had a strong grounding of who I was. I was rooted in my identity as a Nigerian girl, as a Yoruba girl. Mm-hmm. And everyone around me was a professional. So there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to be a professional. I was going to be successful. So, being exposed to that kind of the role models, the professionals around you is really important for a young person. You can't be what you can't see. Mm-hmm. And that's why people talk about representation and why it matters so much. And so no matter what, low aspirations they had of me, I didn't have them of myself. And that is so important to raise children who are grounded in who they are.
That is, that's an incredible point. I love that I didn't know you actually lived here. And I think that it counts for so much because when you're here, you're not Black you're just Stephanie.
Yes.
And you're just Yoruba.
Exactly.
And you're just who you are.
Exactly.
And having those years, those formative years, and having them really establish who you are before you go out there, and people try to tell you who you are, I think is critical. And I think that's amazing. And obviously it shows in the kind of person that you are. It's incredible. So well done to you.
Thank you.
So you are a mom. And I was wondering if becoming a mom changed your career trajectory, if at all. Because one of the things that we get a lot now is that, having babies, it kills your dreams and it makes things so, so difficult. And it does. But for someone as accomplished as yourself, I wanted to ask if having a child, or you feel like it changed your trajectory, or you could have gone further if you hadn't had a child.
So for me, actually, it was the opposite. Having a child made me more determined, made me more aware of my imprint in the world. What am I going to leave behind for this little girl? What will she say about me in the future? So I had a real profound sense of legacy when I had my child, and it was a strange time when I was on maternity leave. So in the UK, thankfully, you get 1 year off to look after your child, and that is a blessing. And I was at home, and at the area I was living at the time, Han Hill, was kind of caught up in riots. It was caught up in riots, and it was, we were really just stuck at home. I was stuck at home with a baby, terrified because these young people, like very angry young people, were going around kind of smashing things up, looting, and the police just had a policy of not engaging them, and just nobody was arrested immediately, nobody was stopped, there was no force used. So they really just went on a rampage. And I just remember sitting at home thinking, oh my God, what kind of life am I going to leave behind for my daughter, this tiny baby? And this is happening outside of my doorstep. I don't even know who my neighbors are. So it really kind of, in my mind, made me determined to leave a better world for her because of this crazy situation that was happening at that moment. And that was when I decided to start my TEDx. So I started curating a TEDx, or decided at that moment to curate TEDx in Brixton, which is near where I lived. And it was really just about getting to know my neighbors, the community, building a community so that we could engage, bring everybody to a stage, the same platform, regardless of who they were, to share their idea. And because, there's so much disaffection and marginalization in society, especially in British society at that time, still happening. But I just wanted to do my part, and being a mom really helped to spur me on. Most of my best achievements actually happened when I became a mom, because I became very determined to work hard for my child, to leave her a better world, and to think about what she will say about me.
Wow, that's so powerful. I think you've even answered my next question, because I was going to ask about your involvement with the missing Nigerian schoolgirls, and if you're having a daughter and being a girl mom in particular, if that really resonated with you and really contributed to your passion and fervor to finding out what happened to these girls, because I remember that it was such a crazy time, and I remember you just everyone knew that Stephanie was going to get this done, and you were so vocal about it. And I was wondering if being a mom, and in particular being a girl mom, if that contributed towards your passion at that time.
Absolutely. I grew up in Nigeria, like I said. I went to boarding school here briefly for a couple of years in Ijebu-Ode, and just hearing the story about these girls just made me so angry and sad, because I am them and they are me. And being a girl mom and knowing the importance of education for a girl child which is denied to so many of our young girls across Africa, not just in Nigeria. So all of these things spurred me to really kind of work hard on this story, to keep at it. I've been reporting on this story for 7 years.
Yes.
And every time I think I'm done, something new comes, a new element. And I know that it's part of my calling as a journalist to really keep amplifying these stories, to amplify these voices, because, that is an essential part of what we do. For me, the Chibok girls refuse to be forgotten. Like so many kidnapped girls before them and so many kidnapped people before them. But the world kept coming back to them. And they, for me, kind of symbolize, all of these people who have been stolen. And, they really just kept that momentum out there so that people don't forget. And, it's still happening now.
It still is.
Happening now. And that is the tragedy of it for me. I was in Zamfara recently talking to a girl who had been kidnapped from school. And then when she got to the kidnappers' forest, she found her father and her sister and her sister's children in the forest with the kidnappers. I mean, that is just the reality for Nigerians now. It's a daily reality, kidnapping. And those people, because they're not school children, nobody's talking about them.
Right.
So when there's a mass school kidnapping, everyone goes, oh my God, it's outrageous. Even now, actually, it's less and less outrageous.
It is. It's more the norm.
It's become a norm.
Yeah.
We accept this. It's really tragic but we've accepted it. But she went in there and her dad was in there, elderly man. I met them all and they were struggling to raise the ransom from the kidnappers. And of course, the schoolgirls were released very, very quickly. Her dad had been in there a month. She was in there for 4 days. So it just shows you like the kind of disparity and the reality of kidnapping in this country right now.
Wow, I didn't know that there was such a disparity in the way that we valued the kidnapped.
Yeah.
That, if it's a school girl, then they would be more high priority because I guess there'll be more news around it. And you can imagine how many kidnappings we do not know about.
Yeah, the hundreds of thousands.
It's hundreds of thousands.
Well, I mean, over the years.
Yes, of course.
Because people just get kidnapped, they pay the ransom quietly, and they go about their business. So it's not really even documented.
Right.
They don't report to the authorities. And so the thing about the school kidnapping is that what you have is media attention. What you have is mass, the mass of parents, the emotions, the pressure on the government, federal and state governments. So then they're forced to act quickly because of all that pressure. But if a single person is kidnapped, no one is agitating for them as such, No one is like saying, oh, my dad was kidnapped. And, even the news doesn't carry it.
Exactly. So it's just not enough pressure. Like you said, it's not enough bodies and numbers.
Right. So it shouldn't be the way. But unfortunately, that is the reality now.
That is wild.
Yeah.
And do you because you just mentioned that you went to Zamfara, do you get scared? Like when you're going, and especially because you're a mom, you're like, oh man, I'm going to the north is crazy. Do you get scared? And what keeps you going back in spite of your fears, if you have any?
I don't go to a job scared because then that fear gets in the way and stops you from doing what you have to do. It is unfortunately what I do. And, there are some moments, some hairy moments, there can be. But if you're careful, if you take the right precautions, if you, you have the right security around you and all of those things are in place, we don't just go, every assignment is scrutinized carefully.
Okay, yes, of course.
For the danger potential before it's approved and all of that. So it's not just me rushing into the war zone.
Yeah.
That would be irresponsible as a mother. But also my responsibility as a journalist is to tell people stories. And that is what I signed up for. So it's at the back of my mind, but I don't let it overtake me, if you like, because It's just my job.
It
It's what I
is.
do.
And someone has to do it,
Yeah.
you know. We need people like you who would keep the pressure on and keep telling these stories because, like you said, it's so easy, especially in the current regime we're under, for stories to just kind of get swept away.
Yeah.
So we're so grateful to people like you and all the other amazing journalists who keep going back and keep fighting and keep telling these stories. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much for that. We need you. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, you know, part of also why I go is to bring the North to the rest of the country.
Yes.
Because there's so much misconceptions about the North of the country, about the people, about so much. It's one of the most beautiful parts of the country. You know, the northern landscape and you know, some of the cities out there and you know, towns. Unfortunately, so little is known. Like, so few of us have really traveled around Nigeria.
Yes,
You
that's
know,
true.
We go to US, we go to Dubai, we go
Yep,
to UK,
all
but
of them.
we don't go to places in our own country. And that is fundamental to our own understanding of each other as a people. We're Nigerians. We need to know what makes us tick. We need to understand why we do the things we do. We need to understand our cultures to bring that unity that we so crave as a country. So that's part of the reason why I really make an effort to go and tell these stories.
Yeah, that's me. Well, shade to me because I have never, outside of like my village and maybe Abuja, I definitely, I could do better regarding really knowing more about Nigeria. And you're right. The thing is, you know, the North, oftentimes, it just seems so far away, not even geographically, but in terms of our culture and our understanding of things, it just seems so far sometimes. But how do we get to that understanding if we're not making the effort? So you've given me a lot to think about. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
I'm glad to.
So I also wanted to talk about your TED Talk, how fake news does real harm. It was incredible. And I was wondering how that came about. First, well, let's start with that. How did what inspired you to give that talk?
So, I mean, you know, it's that really strange thing about life, the journey that life takes you on that you don't even realize at the time that it's part of your preparation. So like I said before, I started doing a TEDx in Brixton. It was an event. So as a TEDx curator, you apply to TED itself, which is the main conference organization, for a license, and you act as a volunteer curator and you put on your event, you tell them what ideas you want to share and talk about. And so I've never done this. I was just like, okay, let me just apply. I got the license and then I had to put on this event. I'd never put on an event before, ended up being for 600 people. We got sponsors, partners, and then we got all these amazing speakers. Robert Greene, the author, was one of them. Amma Asante, you know, so many key people who had a link to South London in the area that I lived in. And I was curating their stories. I was helping them like a speaker coach to all these people to tell their stories. And I didn't realize that I was also preparing myself for my own TED Talk one day. It had never even crossed my mind that I would do a TED Talk. So I found myself, you know, when I left London for Lagos in 2016, I had to end the TEDx because I just couldn't do it with my work. And so one of my really dear friends, Paddy Anigbo, he's one of the co-curators of TEDx Houston in London, one of the biggest TEDx out there. And so he lives in Lagos, and TED, the main organization, said that they're looking for ideas for a TED conference in Africa. They were going to do a TED conference in Africa for the first time in 10 years. So they were going to go around and do a search. And I was like, oh, you know, maybe I should apply. Gosh, you know, what will I talk about? And then I started talking to some of the people behind the scenes at TED that I got to know over the years. And they like helped me to shape my idea. And it became a talk. And it was supposed to be a 6-minute audition. They were like, okay, just go on a stage, do your audition, and then we'll see if you're picked for Arusha. It was going to be in Arusha in 2017. And So Chris Anderson, the curator of TED, came to Nigeria and with other kind of curators of the conference itself. They coached us. You know, it was like a really intense process.
Mm-hmm.
I gave my talk on the day. This is an audition, remember? And I practiced so much. So that preparation was really key. And also used the skills that I gained as a speaker coach all those many years ago. And I crafted the talk of my life. And 6 minutes after, you know, like lots of applause and whatever, you know, and then I get a call from TED saying, look, this talk is so good that we don't even want to take it to Arusha. We just want to put it straight on TED.
What?
I was like, what? So I went from an audition, a 6-minute audition, straight onto TED homepage.
Wow.
With that talk. And I was like, oh my God, you know, still one of the most incredible things.
But it's an incredible talk.
Thank you.
And so needed and so necessary. I mean, living in the times that we live in particular, it was just, I don't know. For someone like myself, I've personally been affected by fake news.
Right.
So I'm married to Neso C, who's like a rapper.
I did some research. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I found that after you talked to me. So yeah, I was like, oh, right, okay.
Great.
That's a connection. Yeah.
Yeah. So when the news of our relationship like broke, it was like, oh, Neso C's dating Nicole, and there was a lot of news came out, and a lot of it
wasn't true.
So that was really, really hurtful. I was also quite young when Neto and I started dating. I was 22.
Oh, wow.
So being bombarded with the news around the whole thing, and, you know, my parents having to talk to my parents about what was true and what wasn't, was horrendous. I was depressed. I was scared. Like, I didn't want to leave my house. And this is me at 22. And people even younger than that, women that are younger than that, girls are affected by this as well. So it was, when I watched that, I was like, oh, thank God, someone is talking about this. Yeah. So my next question actually was regarding your daughter. It must be really stressful in this social media age raising a girl and trying to shield her from all of this fake news and all of the rhetoric. And I was wondering how you are doing that. Like, are you intentionally creating blocks around your child?
Listen, it is actually one of the toughest things that modern parenting throws you away. And I've confronted it. So I gave her my Instagram access early on. Maybe she was 8, but I was controlling it within my account, and she posts on it, but I vet it and, you know, just make sure that she's not getting any inappropriate messages, etc.
And how old is she now?
She's 10.
10, okay.
She's soon to be 11. You know, so she got a phone, and then all hell broke loose because she got a phone, and she kind of figured out how to, like, you know, set up an email account. And, you know, they are so savvy.
Yes, they are.
This generation were born into kind of digital, you know, we grew up with it. It emerged in our generation, but it was here for them. And they are so adept at using it. So she set up a Snapchat account, she set up a separate Instagram account, you know, so many things that I wasn't even aware about. And then suddenly I was just like, you know, let me just do a check. And then just found these accounts and, you know, talking to people that I didn't even know. And, you know, so we just had to shut the whole thing down. But, you know, the thing I found, the lesson I learned was not to be punitive about it. Yes, there were consequences to going behind my back and doing all those things. But we started to just talk a lot about everything. Boys, crushes, all of these things.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God, I don't even want to think about this. Like, when I was 10, I was not thinking about crushes. But this is a different generation. So we have to accept that they are growing at a faster pace, at a different pace than we did. So talk to them. Make your child your friend. And so now there's very little that we don't talk about. I know all her crushes. I know all of them.
Good.
And we talk about them. And, you know, she knows that no matter whatever it is that's happened, she can come to me.
Yes.
There's an open
Key.
door.
Mm-hmm.
I may tell you off. I may be angry, but we will always fix it together. Don't feel that mummy is just going to be, someone you can't talk to and who's just going to be angry and just make you scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should be scared, but you should also come
Not
to
be
me.
too scared. Not be too scared to not say anything.
Exactly.
Because that's where the real danger is, in the silence.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to go out there in the world.
Yes.
So we do have some controlled form of social media usage. And, I've told her about grooming, what that looks like.
Important.
Inappropriate touching. So many things that you just have to be open and talk about. No matter how embarrassed you are, no matter how you feel like, oh, she's too young or they're too young. No, this is the time to start talking openly to your children. Because if you're not, someone else is.
Exactly.
And in the schools, oh my God, it's raging. They are exposed to a lot more than you think.
Yes.
So you
agreed.
better make sure that you know what it is that they're exposed to and start to unpick any crazy information that they may have picked up out there that you are not in control of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not easy. But, parenting in this generation is not easy. But the way to do it is to be open and be a friend and someone they can talk to.
Absolutely, I completely agree. I think it's so important to be intentional about communication because, like you said, it's uncomfortable, and it's not just uncomfortable because that's your child, but it's also uncomfortable because that's not how we were raised.
No.
Like I could never, at age 10 or 9, go up to my mom and be like, oh, I think I like someone.
Yeah.
Like that would be the end of my life.
Yes.
I felt like that could have been the end of my life. So I would never have spoken to her about it.
Yeah.
So I love that a lot of moms now are being intentional about that, keeping the communication lines open because it's in that breakdown of communication, in that silence, that's where a lot happens.
Yeah.
So that's so important. And having these conversations early, I was reading about even talking to your kids about like their sexual parts and not, how it kind of we tend to say, oh, your bum bum or your pee pee. Like, no, this is your penis.
Yes.
It's a penis.
Yes.
And this is your
Name those
vagina.
body
Name
parts.
it. This is a vagina. Nobody should touch your vagina
Exactly.
because when you kind of baby it and sugar it makes it not as serious when you're just calling it like, oh, your wee area or your this. So just being intentional about things like that.
There's a really great book that we read when I think she was about 5 or 6. It's called Don't Touch Me There. Pastor Nomthi Odukoya, I think, wrote it.
Okay, amazing.
And it's really great. So simple. And it just says, what is appropriate touching and what isn't, and what you should do if someone does that, because a lot of children are so confused, and then if they're being abused, the adult can like manipulate them, and but if they know beforehand, oh yeah, that mummy talked to me about this, and also no secrets, only surprises.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
that you can say, this is a surprise, don't tell. And then when the surprise happened, the secret is gone.
Yes.
But there should be no secrets with you and anybody that you can't tell mummy or daddy.
Exactly.
So these are things that we talked about very early on, very, very early on, to create like this open forum where she can feel free to talk to me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome. So I want to talk a bit more about your daughter because she's an entrepreneur.
She is.
So I wanted to ask, how did that come about? Because I have 3 kids and I need them to start working. Because I'm like, why all 3 of you, everyone is broke? Why? Why everyone should go get a job, start a business? So please, how did that even start for her?
Yeah, so, she was 5 when we came to Lagos, and she's born in the UK. Like, that was only her second time of coming here, and she kind of had a bit of a hard time adjusting to the poverty levels and, seeing children on the street. And she would always be like, Mummy, give them money, give them everything. And I'm like, I can't give my money to every child that we see. And unfortunately, there's so many street children in our communities. So one day she decided that she wanted to do something about it. And we were brainstorming ideas. I said, we have to earn money to give them more money.
Yes.
And she loves her teddies, and she said she wants to make teddy bears to, sell and help them. And, that's how Grace Teddies was born. And Grace Teddies is like kind of cultural range of teddies, so made from African prints, and a percentage of the profits goes towards helping school children, street children go to school or get an education.
Amazing.
Yes. So it was launched in 2019, and tail end of 2019, just in time for her 9th birthday. But then the pandemic happened, and so the kind of shut all the production down.
Of course.
So, but we're hoping to kickstart it now that things are getting going, and it's something she's still really passionate about, and something that she wants to carry on, into a kind of sustainable business that she can, grow and learn from.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes she delivers the teddies herself, and she tells people why we're doing it. And we actually spent her 9th birthday in Ikorodu with children from the Dream, I think it's called the Dream Nurture Academy. They do the dance videos.
Okay, yes. That's it.
So we're sponsoring one of those children through
Amazing.
education. So, it's a lot of things. But yeah, production is stalled, so we're looking for production partners and all the rest to kickstart it again. But yeah, that's how it all came about in a nutshell.
That is incredible, because this is going to teach her so much about life, about business, about managing relationships, about the importance of social responsibility as well.
Absolutely.
So this is fantastic, and I love that you brainstormed with her when she had. Again, it just goes to show you guys are communicating, because she had questions. Why are there so many kids on the street? Why can't you give them all your money?
I know.
So to be able to come up with a solution like that, that would also be so greatly beneficial to her, but to society as well, is fantastic. So we can't wait. Hopefully production kickstarts again really soon, so that we can all go and support. Please, she has to deliver my own teddy personally.
Yes, we'll bring one to you personally.
Please. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Do you think that you've learned anything from her now that she started her business and she's a boss?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm just always surprised at how passionate she is about, choosing the designs that we use, and, kind of making sure that they are right. And even, like I said, just going to meet the people and say, oh, Mummy, I want to tell them all about this. And just seeing that commitment so early on, and the focus, is really impressive for me. Because when I was 10, oh my God, I was like the most timid, kind of just, shy little girl. But she teaches me a lot, because she's a lot more expressive. And that's what we want. We want to raise children that are polite but expressive.
Yes.
They know how to set their own boundaries and say, actually, that's not working for me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when she says that, then I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay. But I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, that is totally what I want for her, is for her to be able to express those boundaries. She turned around to me and said to me something like, you're shaming me, Mummy. I was like, I just had to pause. I was like, really? They have this vocabulary to really express themselves in a way that we didn't.
Exactly.
And sometimes, you have to kind of draw the line between being respectful to like elders and also expressing yourself. So that's the line, the balance that we always kind of walking. But I'm always impressed by how communicative and expressive she is.
So important, especially for a girl, because in Nigeria, no.
Exactly.
I'm so glad to hear about a girl being that expressive, because we need women
We do.
to talk.
Yeah.
So I love that. She's just such an impressive young lady.
Oh, thank you.
I'm blown away. She's awesome.
Thank you so much.
So what is the best thing about being a mom?
Well, gosh, I get to parent such an awesome little girl. She's fully formed, like her personality, since she was like maybe 2 years old, to be honest. Her personality was fully formed. Like I said, she teaches me a lot about expressing herself, about confidence. She's very confident. And, children often are before life kind of bashes them around.
Yes.
They're very confident. And I watch her and I watch the way she relates to her peers, to other adults. And I just see someone I'm really proud of, someone that I've helped to shape, someone that I'm kind of pouring into to kind of develop into a good human. So those are the really key things about being a mom, just helping to create a decent and, fundamentally great human being who will be greater than me.
Amen.
That's a prayer.
That's a prayer. Amen.
For all parents, So yes, I'm proud of who she is and who she's becoming.
Amazing. And then what would you say is, obviously the name of this podcast is Mom's Worst Day. What has been one of your worst days of being a mom?
Yeah, there's quite a few. Where do I start? For me, it was... So I'm a single parent and I have been for a number of years. And, it is quite a hard juggling act, because you have to be both parents. And, it's not an easy journey. And it really does, for me, take a village. When I became newly separated from my husband, I had to go and live with my mom and my sister, and they, my family just really kind of really supported me. And that has been the way it's always been. That's been my greatest support, is my family. And I remember once when I was living in the UK, this was my worst day as a mom. I was rushing to get to an 8 a.m. meeting, and I just dropped Grace to her school then, because there's no house help in the UK. You do everything. And so I was running to catch a bus, and I fell quite badly, and I fell onto my knees, and I was just like sitting there going, oh my God.
Oh no.
Like, this could just not be any worse.
Oh,
this is such a bad day. So, I was just sitting there on my knees in the school, and everyone watching me. And, like the way everybody is, like, nobody comes over and says, are you okay? And they're just like, oh, what's going on over there? They're just walking past. And for me, it was just the day I decided that I needed to leave London. Because you do get a lot more support here.
Exactly. Must have been so overwhelming.
It was. Being a mom, commuting in London, doing the pickups, all of those things. At least here, you can get a nanny, that labour is affordable. Exactly. You can outsource a lot of things. And that's what I do now. I outsource everything possible.
As you should. As you should.
I outsource
please.
Everything. So please do yourself a favour. If you can afford it, outsource.
Please.
That is the only way to stay sane
I
as
agree.
a mother.
And it makes you a better mom. I think we find, and I thought when I initially became a mom that the more I did, then the better mother I was. So if I was doing everything myself, and if I was struggling through everything myself, and if I was, burning out, then people would look at me and be like, wow, that's a mother. Just look at her go. What a great mom she is. But no, I was depressed. I was exhausted all the time. And it made me a horrendous mom. I didn't really want to be around my kids. I didn't want to be around my husband much because I was just so angry and tired and frustrated all the time. So whatever you can outsource, please. If it helps you stay sane and helps you be the best version of yourself, to the people around you, then go for it.
And that is the major key. That's
Yeah.
the major goal, is to be the best version of yourself. Because, it's a cliche, but you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
And if your cup is empty, then you're just, you have nothing.
You have nothing to give
You
anyone.
have nothing to give. Yeah, and also the saying about, always put your life, your oxygen mask on first.
Yes.
Before helping others on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a great life
Isn't
metaphor.
it? Isn't it?
Yes. So,
I love that.
yeah.
So we're rounding up now. This has been so amazing. So
Thank you for having me.
I'm a big, before you leave, I'm a big believer in affirmations. I read one every day and I kind of think on it through the day and say it to myself. And so I wanted to share my affirmation today with you.
Okay.
And so today's affirmation is, I will talk about myself the way I would my best friend.
Amazing.
What are you getting from that? I will talk about myself the way I would my best friend.
I think that's such a powerful affirmation because the subjective I is so critical.
Mm-hmm.
You don't extend to yourself the same grace that you extend towards others sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually one of the things that I am working on myself. It's a process to be kinder to myself and in the process kinder to others. So if I give grace to myself, then I'm less critical of others.
Mm-hmm.
Because with someone like me, who's a bit of a type A, you're always striving. And sometimes that is good, but there was a tendency to become so focused on your goal, so focused on your drive that perhaps you're not so kind to yourself or others in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm learning that giving that grace is so important. And that's what I take from that affirmation.
Amen. Yeah, same with me. I tend to speak actually very poorly to myself. Like if I knock something over, it's not like, oh, oopsie. I'm like, oh, you're so clumsy. Why do you always, I don't know why things like this always happen to me. I just need to be better. Like, why am I'm so critical of myself. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, yeah, this is definitely something for me to think about because I need to give myself grace. And like you said, teaching yourself and rewiring to give yourself more grace helps you extend that to other people.
Absolutely.
It's so important.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That was awesome. Stephanie, this has been such an honor. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful that you came. This was amazing.
Oh.
Thank you so, so, so much.
Fantastic questions.
Oh,
Fantastic.
See, I was going to ask you for like feedback after coming from, an actual journalist. Like I'm just here freestyling every day. So thank you. That was,
No, that's the best. It's been such an easy kind of flowing conversation.
Thank you.
And those are the best kinds of conversations,
Awesome.
when you don't feel like it's a barrage of questions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So well done.
Thank
well
you.
done.
Oh, yeah.
You're a total natural.
High praise indeed. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Until next time, bye.